Hi. So I often get a question about, if somebody is going to start researching on a particular company and just doing financial analysis about a company, then, what data do you look at? Where do you start? How do you kind of go about this entire exercise? Right? So I thought that maybe we will create a quick video around that. Where we do the entire sort of process very quickly. That, let's say, if you go to a website like Screener, how do you use that to kind of take out data that is relevant for you with respect to a quick first cut financial analysis, right? Quick disclaimer here, this is not an exhaustive process. Obviously हम एक क्विक एक्सरसाइज करके बहुत ज़्यादा डेटा किसी कंपनी के बारे में, बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल किसी कंपनी के बारे में नहीं निकाल पाएंगे, पर हमारा आइडिया ये है कि अगर हम एक क्विक फर्स्ट कट एनालिसिस करना चाहते हैं, एक फर्स्ट कट लिस्ट ऑफ नंबर्स को देखना चाहते हैं, तो वो क्या नंबर्स हैं जो हम देख सकते हैं, वो क्या नंबर्स हैं जो हम निकाल सकते हैं फ्रॉम समथिंग लाइक स्क्रीनर, right? So we'll get right into it. What I'll do is I'll do this side by side. So on one side of the screen you'll see the screener, and on the other side you'll see the Excel file, where we'll just punch in some data points about a particular company, and then maybe the same about a competitor as well, just to get a sense of how do you go about looking at this exercise, right? So let's say, argument's sake, we just pick up any of the sectors. Say we pick up cement sector. So I start with, let's say, searching for Ultratech Cement, and we get data for Ultratech Cement. Now this is, again, I will repeat, not an exhaustive list. You can choose to go and look at multiple other data points as well, but this is the bare minimum you would want to know about a company to kind of start the analysis in the first place. So we begin, we pick up the market cap data. The market cap data is available here, so it's about 332,784. You don't need to put exact numbers. You can choose to kind of put the numbers with respect to specific sort of rounding off numbers. So 330 is good, for example. Then you want to look at sales. So I'll click on profit and loss, and I'll go here and look at last year's sales, let's say. So about 70,900 odd crore is the number. I can punch the exact number if you want. What is the net profit? What is the operating profit? So operating profit is 12,969. So I'll put in 12,969. Net profit is 7,004. So 7,004. अब we can quickly calculate a couple of ratios. Operating margin ले सकते हैं, वो यहाँ पे भी calculated already है on screener, but if we want we can just do that very quickly. So that's basically your EBITDA or operating profit by net sales, that's 18%, and your net profit margin is 7,000 upon sales, which is 10%, right? What screener gives you very well is you can actually go down here just below the P&L, and on the squares you see just below that, you'll see some kind of growth numbers. So sales growth compounded over 10 years has been about 13%, right? So I can write 13%. Sales growth over 5 years is about 11%, so that's slowed down a little bit. Profit growth over 10 years is 13%, but profit growth over 5 years has been 24%. So sort of dipped and then kind of went up, looks like what has happened. Then you go to a little bit of the balance sheet data. So let's look at balance sheet, and I just want to understand, when I look at the balance sheet, how big is the balance sheet size, right? पर्पस हमारा 2 और 3 फोल्ड है. हम देखना चाहते हैं कि अगर कंपनी को ग्रो करना है और उसके लिए केपेक्स करना है, तो हाउ मच मनी विल दे नीड टू डू दैट केपेक्स, right? How capital intensive the business is. That's what I want to kind of find out. 2, I need to find out if there's a lot of debt that is funding that kind of a capex. So does the business need a lot of leverage to be able to kind of sustain itself or run itself? 3, I want to check at any number that is like very large, right? So if inventory is large, if goodwill is large, if intangible assets other than goodwill are large, if receivables are large. So just kind of observe very quickly if you see something that is very large, and try and observe and put that, right? So as a practice, I just want to look at very quickly what are the top assets that we have. So for March we'll compare. So we'll look at FY24. Total liabilities look like, or total assets look like 1,800 approximately. I mean, we don't need to sort of worry about that. So I will round it off to 1,00800. One sec. 800. Yeah, and we can actually just remove the decimal points. I can keep it here. I will actually put this number in borrowings. What is the borrowings number we see? That's 11,403. So let's put 11,403 here. Again, I think let's just format all of this in this format, right? And I'll just delete it. 11,403. what are the total fixed assets? Now you see fixed assets is a reasonably large component here, right? So cement seems to be a capital intensive business. So 62878. How do you compare it if it is a capital intensive business or not? I'll put some other company here very quickly and then we'll look at some numbers and try and understand. So there is some borrowing. There is a large amount of total assets that are there, and then there are fixed assets which kind of come in, right? And then you have some details about the cash flow statement. So just very quickly, the 3 line items that we are seeing, right? Just want to kind of consider cash from operating activity. So that's 10,898. Investing activity is negative, which means there is some kind of a capex that is going on. So minus 8,789. And cash from financing activity is negative, which means either a dividend is being paid or finance cost is being paid or whatever. So in general, this looks like a sort of a healthy number. So I'll put 1926 negative, and that gives you an overall cash flow number. Now, in addition to this, we've done this part. In addition to this, what all would you want to do? So you want to kind of look at trends, right? So you want to kind of quickly see what's happened to cash from operating activity over these years. Right, so seems to be sort of growing. You want to see it, have they done a lot of investment in certain plants? This looks like they're buying cement plants because that's been in the news around Ultratech. So that seems to be happening. But they are continuously sort of seeing negative numbers in financing activity as well, which means debt shouldn't be going up too much over this period, right? So I go and just corroborate that data point. You're right that debt has actually gone down over this period. I mean, in the last 6 months, it's gone up again, but intuitively the debt has been under control, and when you compare it to their market cap, it looks like a reasonably sort of healthy position. Doesn't look like too much of a challenge. Let me also very quickly just take these numbers and format them so they're all in a similar-ish kind of a framework. Now this is cement. If you just want to kind of understand a few more things about it, for example, in addition to this, you want to go down and check what is the shareholding, just to observe what's happening, right? As a checklist, is the promoter holding going up, going down? Is institutional holding in terms of FII and DI holding going up, going down? General understanding of kind of how the shareholding has moved over a period of time. If there are any movements, you want to then dig deeper. You point that out somewhere, note it down कि अच्छा I have to check the promoter holding, एक बार उसको check करेंगे कि क्यों ऊपर जा रही है, नीचे जा रही है, and then try and kind of move from there, right? You will also go ahead and look at some other things like peers. तो यहीं पे we will get peers comparison, and you can very quickly sort of get a sense of a peer with a particular market cap, like Ambuja Cement has a market cap of 138 575 and sales of 32,000 crore. Shri Cement has 98,000, but sales is lesser in that. The sales is about 19,000 and so on and so forth. And you can look at what has been the sort of movement in the past few years in terms of returns. You can look at PE ratios, although that just gives you a very superficial understanding. You can actually sort of change the columns here. So if you want, you can quickly put up operating margin here, operating profit margin, and just sort of save columns, and you can go there and you'll have operating margins. Now you can consider and compare as to why does Shri Cement get a higher margin than, let's say, some other company, and you can then dig deeper into the analysis that you're doing, try and find out. So these are just pointers when you're comparing peers in terms of size, market cap, sales, margins, etc., right? Then you want to look at some documents that are there. So here you will also find just below your investor segment, there are a bunch of documents that exist, and couple of documents that are very relevant for us is annual reports. So we should be kind of looking at annual reports and digging a little bit deeper into them. And companies give you investor presentations. So you'll see this PPT here, you'll see this transcript here. These are relevant components that you can then use to sort of come across and try and dig deeper into your understanding. Abhi, when we have seen all these numbers, there may be some questions in our mind. What is happening to capex, what's happening to the company, why is profit growing or not growing, growing or degrowing, whatever is in your mind. Some of those answers would be available in these PPTs, in these transcripts, in these documents, etc. And then, as I said, you want to look at trends in numbers. कोई number कहाँ से कहाँ जा रहा है over a period of time. What has been the sales growth, what has been the profit growth, what kind of movement has happened in the business. That's what you want to kind of consider. Right now, let's compare this entire analysis, this bit of analysis, with another sector, another firm, just to kind of get a sense of how margins move, what is let's say some of the data points that would be relevant for us in terms of understanding. And for that, maybe we can pick up a different kind of a business, like let's say two-wheeler business, right? So I'll probably search for a company like Hero Moto Corp, and just quickly look at data there. So this data is for Ultratech, this is for Hero Moto, and for Hero Moto 88,600 crore is the market cap, right? And your sales number would be on the P&L. So we go there, it's about 37,800, so 37,800. Operating profit 5235. You can put up some other numbers like 3742, which is here. All the ratios will get automatically calculated. Look at sales growth numbers now. So now you realize that auto is a sector that has seen 4% sales growth over 10 years and 2% over 5 years. So really no real growth that is happening. Profit growth has been 7% over 10 years and 2% over 5 years. So no real growth there as well. Dig deeper into the balance sheet size, you realize the balance sheet size is actually smaller in that sense, but on comparative basis you might find it might be similar in terms of capital intensity. Components might be different on the balance sheet, right? So for example, when you look at total assets here, you see 26,153 crore, right? Or let me just put it here. So 26,153, and while it moves ahead, let me just quickly format this and remove decimal points. Borrowings are not there. So you have like 600 crore of borrowing. So very little leverage that is there. Fixed assets also are 6232, right? So now here you see that unlike Ultratech, where fixed assets were like 60% of your total asset base, here fixed assets are like less than 25% of your total asset base. So where are the other parts? Investments is very large. So they must be holding a lot of cash or cash equivalents or investments in mutual funds, etc. That is basically here. So net of that, if you actually remove this investments part and you remove the other assets, there must be some cash equivalents that are there, add up about 13,000 crore. Net of that, the balance sheet size is actually just 13,000 crore. Rest of it is all cash, right? So if you look at that in perspective, then you'll get a sense of, okay, how capital intensive the business is, and you realize it may not be as sort of capital intensive in that context. One other exercise you may want to do is just look at the EBITDA they're generating or operating profit they're generating and see if they have to do a capex, right? Then how much money do they need to do that capex? Similarly, let's go to cash flows. So you again see sort of healthy cash flow numbers. That's 4923 minus 1828 and minus 2717. They don't have debt, so most of it looks like dividend payout and payout that's happening, and some kind of capex that is kind of going on an ongoing basis. But just to give you a comparative sense, and now you could go and look at an IT company, you could go and look at some other companies. So this is just a template I'm giving you in terms of a checklist, right? You can just pick up an Excel file, put up these numbers. Once again, repeating, that this is not an exhaustive list. You can go and look at multiple other numbers. अगर आप और research करना चाहते हैं तो 10 और number देखिए, डालिए उनको यहाँ पे, analyze कीजिए, dig deeper, and when you have some questions that why is it capital intensive, why is it not capital intensive, then you'll get the data in some of these documents, some of these trends. Go and observe trends, go and look at this data, go and look at the annual report, go and look at the annual presentations that are there, transcripts of con calls that are there, and see if your questions have been answered there. So आप comparative analysis कीजिए, look at multiple companies in the same sector, put those numbers together and just understand. You can do comparative analysis of one company across multiple years, and what you can also do is just like we have done different sectors, just to compare and understand sectoral dynamics across those sectors. That is what we would want to kind of cover in this particular video. Try it out. Pick up a company, go to Screener, open an Excel file, just start punching in numbers, and you'll see your understanding about it will start evolving. Just try it out and let us know in the comments how that worked out, right? Thank you.